Good morning. Thanks for joining. I see we have someone from St. Peters, Missouri. Thanks for dropping in and this morning, and some more folks are chatting. Good morning. We have Wisconsin. So with that, I'll introduce myself and welcome everyone. It's kind of strange, like looking into a looking glass, because I can only see my screen and I can't see anyone looking back at me, even if they're tiny little squares. But we always adapt. So I have some gratitude for that. My name's James Sander. I'm an Operation Iraqi Freedom veteran, serving from 1999 to 2010, deploying overseas to support OIF from 06 to 07, and then also made the challenging and confusing and frustrating journey back home, which was more than just a simple plane ride across the Atlantic Ocean. And through that journey or process of learning about myself and rectifying internally, doing the internal work for my participation and enlistment in the United States military, it eventually brought me to yoga. So with that, the lineage and the modalities of yoga that I share with folks are from a trauma-informed place. And there are two things with that are really important with trauma-informed yoga practice, Western yoga to be specific, because we are appropriating in other people's culture, is to focus on your breath. We know from the ancient lineages from the Indian region that the mind-body connection can be tapped into with the breath. We also know that with medical science from a Western perspective, that they both are saying the same thing. So really focus on your breath, regardless of the shape or form that I suggest to you. And then that's the second thing, which is everything that I cue or suggest for shapes or movements in the body are only suggestions, especially in this virtual format, since I cannot see your body and I don't know your specific situation. So everything I say is a suggestion to move in your body. So with that, let's first off, I guess, thank you for taking time to work on yourself this morning and move your body. So let's first find stillness. Arriving in a comfortable seat. For some folks, that's sitting crisscross applesauce. For others, you can sit on your shins. Others, you can sit with your legs extended out in front of you. Whatever is comfortable in your body. Next, try to find a gentle but stable spine. And begin to soften your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so and you are in a place that you feel safe. And then bring your awareness to the base of the sternum, that bony part that connects the rib cage, and then 3 finger widths deep inward. Try to draw your concentration to this location. And simply breathe. Continue to maintain that single pointed awareness at the base of the sternum. 3 finger widths deep inward. And breathe. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pausing. And exhaling for 4, 3, 2, 1. And pausing. Continue that breath with that similar cadence. Samavriti, when components of the breath are equal. Simply letting your breath find a smoothness. Maybe you begin to notice, instead of just breathing with the upper aspects, tops of your lungs, you're now breathing from the bottom of the lungs, the belly, the middle, and the top of the lung. Continue to breathe. Two more breaths. Inhaling for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pausing. Exhaling for 3, 2, 1, and 0. Take one clearing breath, a clearing breath being where you inhale as huge as you can. Imagine that you are getting ready to inflate a balloon. So inhaling deeply and then let it all go. To start with alternate nostril breathing to balance the nostrils before we start inviting movement into the body. And also to demonstrate 2 different forms of breath work that you can take with you outside of this conference. Take your right hand out in front of you, and then draw in your pointer finger and then the index finger, I believe it's called, into the palm of your hand like this. You're kind of making that surfer sort of motion. And then you'll use your thumb to gently seal the right nostril, and your pinky will gently seal the left nostril. And it's called alternate nostril breathing. So the seal will alternate from nostril to nostril. This is very useful because as we sleep, we tend to, our nostrils tend to lean to one side or the other. So it helps balance that. And it's also pretty invigorating. So inhaling fully, sealing the right nostril with the thumb, exhaling through the left. Inhaling through the left. Switching the seal, exhaling through the right. Inhaling through the right. Switching the seal, exhaling through the left. Inhaling through the left. Switching, exhaling through the right. Inhaling right. Switching, exhaling left. Inhaling left. Switching, exhaling right. Inhale right. Switch the seal, exhale left. Bring that right hand to rest atop the knee or the lap or down beside you. Take a moment. And just breathe. Next, we'll come to a neutral tabletop position. So if you're sitting cross-legged, you can roll over your knees, or if you have creaky knees, you can bring your feet off to the side. And we'll just find a tabletop position. Your wrists will be stacked right underneath your shoulders, and your knees will be right underneath your hips. Let me adjust that camera. so you can see my feet. Sorry about that. Once you're in that tabletop position, slightly engage the core, drawing navel to spine. Make any micro adjustments that you need to find comfort and stability in this shape. Reset the breath, inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the nose. Inhale for cow, dropping your tummy towards the earth, gazing towards the sky or ceiling. Exhale, protract your shoulders, rounding like a Halloween cat, gazing towards your navel. Inhale, dropping tummy towards the ground, gazing up towards the sky. Exhale, rounding. Inhale, gazing to the sky, dropping tummy towards the earth. Exhale, protract, rounding your shoulders. Come to a neutral spine again. And for the next 5 breaths, we'll invite free movement in a tabletop position. Now, for many of you or some of you, maybe you just continue to do 5 more cycles of cat-cow because that's calling to you. Or you can take any free movements to wake up the spine, depending on your ability and accessibility to making shapes. I'll start the 5 breaths now, and each breath I'll offer a different variation that should be accessible. Maybe you inhale, drop your tummy towards the sky, gazing towards, the sky. Exhale, as you round, you drop your booty back towards your right heel, pressing back into a child's pose, rounding those hips over to the left and then coming forward, making big old circles. And then you come forward and then you reverse the direction of the circle. Maybe you invite belly or barrel rolls with the stomach, all towards the aim of waking up the spine. You can't really do this wrong. Actually, you cannot do this wrong. As long as you are making an effort to move and connect that movement with the patterns of your breath. And then find stillness in a neutral tabletop position. Extend the right leg out long behind you. Your right toes will be right underneath your right heel. So inhale, bring your shoulders past your wrists. Exhale, press back into that right calf. Left knee will remain grounded on the earth for support and stability. Inhale, rocking forward. Exhale, rocking back. Inhale, rock forward. Exhale, rock back. Coming to neutral, right leg continues to be extended out behind you. Raise that right leg up off the earth, straightening through the right heel. Inhaling here. Exhale, make sure your right hand is right underneath your right shoulder, because on an inhale, we're raising our left hand up off the earth as if you were handshaking someone out in front of you, thumb to the sky. Inhale for length through the fingertips and the heel. Exhale, contract, drawing elbow to knee, crunching up like in that cat position. Inhale, extend. Exhale, contract. Inhale, extend. Exhale, contract. Listen for the change. Inhale, extend. Exhale, ground left hand. Bend into right knee, bringing that knee off beside you for a fire hydrant, like you were a dog by a fire hydrant. Inhale, raise the knee. Exhale, lower the knee. Inhale, raise the knee. Exhale, lower. Inhale, raise. Exhale, ground right knee by left. One transitionary cat-cow. Inhale, drop tummy towards the earth, gazing towards the sky. Exhale, protract, rounding the spine, gazing towards the navel. Come to neutral. Extend the left leg long again. Same pattern, other side. Inhale, shoulders past the wrists. Exhale, press back into that left calf. Inhale, shoulders past the wrists. Exhale, press back into the left heel. Inhale, forward. Exhale, press back. Coming to neutral with that leg extended out behind you. Remember, we want to make sure the left hand is firmly underneath the left shoulder. Raise that left heel and leg up off the earth, kicking out behind you. Tightening the core to protect the lower back and help support this shape. On an inhale, extend right hand out in front of you, thumb towards the sky. Inhale, lengthen through fingertip and heel. Exhale, contract. Inhale, extend. Exhale, contract. Inhale, extend. Exhale, contract. Inhale, extend. Exhale, ground right hand. Bend into that left knee like you're a dog by a fire hydrant for fire hydrant position. Inhale, raise the left knee. Exhale, lower it. Inhale, raise the left knee. Exhale, lower it. Inhale, raise. Exhale, ground left knee by right. Pressing back into a child's pose. Your knees can be close together, or they can be wider, about the distance of your mat or shoulder width. Resting down, forehead maybe touching the earth. Maybe depending on how open your hips are, you just kind of ground the forearms and rest your forehead on your forearms. Returning to that first breath work practice that we did by finding samavritti, when components of the breath are equal. So in your child's pose, return to your breath. Inhaling for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pausing. Exhaling for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pausing. 2 more smooth breaths like that. Inhaling for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pausing. Exhaling for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pausing. One last equal part breath. 4, 3, 2, 1. Pausing. 4, 3, 2, 1. Walking those hands out long if you folded the forearms. Hands grabbing your mat or your floor or the earth. Inhale, roll forward with a high rainbow back into a neutral tabletop. Walk your hands about one hand print forward. And we're going to open the shoulders with Anahatasana, also called puppy pose. So if you've ever been around your dog, I have a pit bull and they're trying to be nice. They bow sort of like this. That's how it also got the Western name of puppy pose. So with wide fingers, arms extended out long, your hips will be over your knees, just like in a neutral tabletop. Inhale, pressing into the hands. Exhale, start to sink your sternum, your forehead towards the floor, towards the earth, opening into the shoulders. Anahatasana. But most importantly, breathe. Two more breaths in this pattern, in this shape. Pressing into the hands. Inhale, raising the torso, raising the heart up high. Grounding both forearms on your mat, making the number 11 with your forearms. Then extend one leg, then the next. The previous shapes are building on each other. So we're in a forearm plank. Hips trying to be in line, shoulders over elbows. And we'll be here for 3 breaths, engaging that core. And breathing. When in doubt, always breathe. Inhaling. Exhale your knees to the earth, your hips to the earth, tops of the feet to the earth for Sphinx pose. Keeping that number 11 with the forearms. Taking any adjustments. Men may have to wiggle and adjust their hips, or anatomically, male that is. Shoulders over elbows. Track your forearms towards your hips. Inhaling, tracking forearms towards the hips, opening the collarbones. Exhale, backing away, gazing through the forearm. Inhale, tracking forearms towards the hips. Exhale, back away. Inhale, opening the collarbones. Exhale, back away. Tucking those toes one more time. Bringing your hands down on the mat, lowering to your tummy. Keeping knees on the earth, or if you still feel comfortable doing a plank, press up to a plank or a modified plank, bending into your knees generously. Press your tail towards the sky for Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. In your downward facing dog, those wide hands, tail to the sky, forearms are rotating in, shoulders away from the ears. You can have a super huge bend in your knees that your tummy rests on your thighs. That's totally cool. trying to make the letter A in your body. Inhaling. Exhale, rolling forward to a plank one more time. Exhale, knees to the earth, chest and chin to the earth for Ashtanga Namaskar. Your booty will be in the air. Think Beyonce. And breathe. Inhale, peel forward to be flat on your tummy once again. Hands remain underneath your shoulders. Inhale, peel your heart up, elbows by your ribs for a baby cobra. Exhale, lower. Inhale, peel up for baby cobra. Exhale, lower. One more and listen for the change. Inhale, peel up and hold. Exhale, look over your right shoulder. Inhale to center. Exhale, look over your left shoulder. Inhale to center. Exhale, lower. Staying in this pranam, you can stack your hands, resting your forehead on those stacked hands. 2 more breaths in this pranam. Taking a moment to actively listen to your body. Listening to the random creaks or what have you that come from the body. Hands return to underneath the shoulders. We tuck the toes, priming the core, drawing navel to spine. Inhaling, exhaling up through plank. Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. So that first little flow that we went through with Ashtanga Namaskar, knees, chest, chin to the earth, and then pressing up and back into downward facing dog, that is one version of a connecting vinyasa. We'll move on to a more classical connecting vinyasa. If you feel called to do the Ashtanga Namaskar, the 8 points pose, knees, chest, chin, feel free. Listen to your body and you're doing yoga correctly or properly. Trying to look like other people is not what we strive for when practicing yoga. Inhale, rolling forward to a plank. Exhale to a half push-up chaturanga. Inhale, rolling over toes, shoulders over wrists for upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Choosing your own adventure. 2 breaths in this downward facing dog. Inhale, forward to plank. Exhale, chaturanga, half push-up. Inhale, upward facing dog. Right now, if you've chosen the other option, you may be pushing back through child's pose to downward facing dog. For the rest of us, upward facing or downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. One more. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhale, forward to plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Dropping knees to the earth, pressing booty to the heels, child's pose. 5 breaths in your child's pose. Hands can be outstretched in front of you. Forehead grounded towards the earth. One more breath. Engaging the hands, gripping the mat or your floor. Tuck your toes. With generously bent knees, raise tail to the sky for Adho Mukha Svanasana once again. Downward facing dog. Let's shorten our dogs by walking our hands back about a hand print or so. If you need to walk it back more, that's totally cool. What we're doing is we're modifying our down dog and we're stretching our side body. So take your right hand and reach to grab your left shin, calf, ankle, whatever's calling to you. If you need to shorten your dogs a bunch, feel free. Make sure that you feel supported and stable in whatever shapes we come to. 2 breaths here. Ground the right hand. Bring the left hand to the right ankle. About 4 breaths. And ground that other hand. Walking those hands forward, coming to your downward dog shape. Moving forward to a modified Surya Namaskar B, sun B's. Inhale, looking towards your thumbs. Exhale, slowly walk your feet forward to come to a forward fold at the top of your space. Bend super generous into your knees, tummy resting on your thighs so that your hands, your fingers can make contact with the ground, the floor, the earth. Really letting go of any willful support in the head. They say that our heads are about 8 to 10 pounds, and we rarely have a chance to release the head just to let the muscles relax. So let's take some time here to maybe shake the head from or back and forth from side to side, just to give the neck muscles, the shoulder muscles, a short reprieve from holding our heads all day long. When you're all shaked out, find stillness. Inhale to a flat back, hands can come to shins. Maybe you're at your fingertips. Regardless of where you're at, try to draw your shoulders together, making the shape of a 7. Inhale here. Exhale, bending into those knees, forward fold. Inhale, sweeping arms up overhead for a standing mountain, standing Tadasana, palms to touch, out breath, hands come to Anjali Mudra or right by your sternum. Soften your eyes. Inhale, arms to the sky, palms to touch. Exhale, sink your tail down, bending into your knees, coming into a chair pose. Fingertips extended out overhead. Breathing. Inhaling here. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale to a flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Plant your hands. Slowly walk back to a downward facing dog. Step your right foot forward between your hands. Your back foot will ground on the mat at about a 45-degree angle. We have a lunge in our front knee, arms raising up overhead. For our version of Virabhadrasana 1, Warrior 1 this morning. Trying to have your core rotate forward. Feet will be hips width distance apart. Breathing. Inhaling tall through the fingertips. Exhale, cactus the arms. Inhale, raising through the fingertips. Exhale, grounding both hands. Stepping that right foot back. Exhale, knees, chest, and chin towards the earth for Ashtanga Namaskar. Peel forward, flat on your tummy. Inhale up, baby cobra. Exhale, lower. Tuck the toes. Press up through plank. Press back to downward facing dog. Inhale that left foot forward. Ground the right leg before you raise the torso or right foot. The right foot again will be at a 45-degree angle. Raising with the torso, lunge in the left knee, arms to the sky, core facing forward. 3 breaths in Virabhadrasana 1 on the left. Inhaling tall through the fingers. Exhale, cactus those arms, opening the collarbone. Inhale, arms to the sky, stepping forward, forward fold. Inhale to your flat back. Exhale, plant those hands. Step back with both feet coming into downward facing dog. Inhale, right heel to the sky, level the hips. Exhale, knee to chest, have that high back. Ground the right foot between the hands. Spin back or spin and ground the left foot down for Warrior 2. So that back foot will be parallel with the back edge of your space. Lunge in the front knee. Arms extended out in front of you. settling into this Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. Inhale, flip the forward hand. Exhale, high five behind you, raising that hand up through the sky, finding length in the side body. Back hand can rest on the leg or small of the back. Exhale, elbow to knee for extended side angle. Only for a breath. Inhaling here. Exhale, frame that front foot, step back through plank. Knees, chest, chin to the earth. Tummy to the earth. Inhale up through a baby cobra. Exhale, lower. Tuck those toes. Pressing up through plank. Downward facing dog. Inhale, left heel to the sky. Exhale, knee to chest. Land that left foot. Spin down that right foot, preparing for Warrior 2 on the left. Rise into Virabhadrasana 2. Maintain that bend in the front knee. Inhale, flip forward hand. Exhale, reverse the warrior. High-fiving behind you. Breathing. Inhale. Exhale, elbow to knee. Extended side angle. Inhaling here. Exhale, frame that front foot. Stepping back through plank, dropping your knees to the earth, pressing back to come to a seated shape as we transition to some floor work. So soften your eyes and breathe. Start by bringing the left foot into the right thigh. For a head to knee pose, Janu Shavasana. So turn the torso to point towards the toes on the right toes drawing back towards the right knee. Inhale, raise arms to the sky. Engage the core by drawing navel to spine. Exhale, hinging from the hips. Let the hands land where they may. Tuck the chin. Exhale, hinge and forward or fold in your fashion. And breathe. Remaining connected with your body by remaining in tune with the patterns and the cycles of the breath. We often refer to this as pranic currents in the yoga community. Walking those hands back towards your hips, raising your torso. Ground that left foot, left knee towards the sky. You may want to reposition your leg right out in front of you. We'll do a quick twist. Or not a quick twist, we'll take some time there. So if you want the left foot to be right by the thigh, you can. If you have the mobility, you can bring that foot across the leg. Choose your own adventure. Inhale, both arms to the sky. Exhale, right elbow to the outside of the left knee. Opposite hand kickstands by the small of your back. Asana. And breathing. Untwisting, taking a counter twist. Undoing the counter twist. We'll do another variation of Mariachi Asana. So ray of light. So inhale, arms to the sky. Exhale, torso past the knee if possible, wrapping the left arm around the left leg. Right hand can come behind you. And maybe you grab your t-shirt, maybe you feel your fingertips, tucking that chin towards the chest. Undoing that bind if you took it. Straightening the left leg out long. Right foot into left thigh for Janusharasana, head to knee pose. Turn your heart, your collarbones towards your left toes back towards the knee. Inhale, raising arms towards the sky, navel to spine. Exhale, hinging from the hips. Ground the hands, framing the shin, tucking, inhaling for length in that spine, and exhale, folding. About 8 breaths here. Raising that torso. Straightening the left leg out in front of you, planting the right foot right by the left thigh. We're going to do that twist again. So inhale, arms to the sky, left elbow to the outside of the right knee, opposite hand kickstanding behind you by the small of the back. About 4 breaths in this shape, in this configuration, in this pattern. Inhaling, arms to the sky. Exhale, counter twist. Inhaling those arms to the sky for ray of light. I'll give you a different angle this time if it interests you. We exhale past the knee, wrap that arm behind you. Maybe you just grab the t-shirt, right? Maybe you can tickle and touch the fingertips. Maybe you have the mobility and the flexibility to grab the hand. Maybe none of those things appear, but there is no way to do yoga incorrectly as long as you are striving to pair movement with breath, whether that's dynamic movement, dynamic static movement, or static shapes and forms and patterns in our bodies. Unwinding, raising the torso, preparing for Baddha Konasana, bound angle pose, also called butterfly pose. So you'll bring your feet to touch, bent knees. Now try to walk your heels in towards your groin as much as possible. Don't worry, we won't stop there. Once you have your heels in towards your groin as much as possible, walk your heels back away from your groin about 2 inches. Take your hands to your feet, thumbs pressing in to your Padabandha, also the hammock in your foot, to use more American concepts. You press with your thumbs and you'll know when you hit the spot because you'll wince. This is a pressure point or a marma point. It's also good for plantar manophysis. It's that foot thing that people have. I always mispronounce it, my bad. I've actually become better at pronouncing Sanskrit than Latin and Greek, oddly enough. Or maybe not so oddly enough. Or I should say words that come from Latin or Greek, because I don't know the source of that word, other than it comes from doctors, Western doctors. Pressing into the foot pad, releasing some of that tension in the hammock of the foot. So the Padabandha, that hammock I'm referring to, can be described as all the various tendons and whatnot in our feet. Us in America and in the West, unless you're part of the barefoot movement like I am, we imprison our feet by shoes, whether that's work boots, fancy shoes, dress shoes, high heels. When we were in the service, combat boots. So this is really great at letting our feet release. All right. Shifting so that you can lay flat on your back. Draw knees in towards your chest. Give yourself a massive hug. Sassing the hips to the right, dropping knees off to the left for 3 breaths. Opposite, both shoulders can be grounded. You can gaze to the opposite direction of your bent knees. Hugging those knees in, Bringing hips back to center, holding your shins, maybe rolling or rocking from side to side 1 or 2 times to release the lower back. Sass the hips off to the left, dropping the knees to the right, both shoulders grounded. 3 breaths, gazing off to the left, the opposite direction of your knees. Breathing. Drawing navel to spine, hugging those knees in fully. Take a huge breath in, inhaling, and exhale, let it all go. Extend the legs, take up as much space that is calling to you for your final relaxation shape. We're coming to the end of our time together this morning. But I offer to you and recommend that if you have the time, if you have the space, you remain in Shavasana, final relaxation pose, for about another 3 to maybe 6 minutes to really let the experience integrate. If you do elect to choose to stay in Shavasana, that final relaxation shape, just take stock and try to notice any biochemical shifts that may have occurred in your body by actively listening for sensations in the body, perceptions in the body, and thoughts. But if sensations, perceptions, and thoughts do arise, and they will, don't focus on them, but just roam with the thoughts and the sensations and perceptions, as if you were going on a stroll and listening to a good friend where you didn't have judgment with what they were saying, but you were just a participant listening. And then after coming out of your Shavasana, let that information integrate, and in time, you may take away a message or two. But otherwise, again, my name is James. I'm a trauma-informed yoga teacher based out of Denver, Colorado. Other than serving the military, I teach at Urban Sanctuary, which is the state of Colorado's only Black-owned and female-operated studio. And we serve the Black and Brown community in GBLTQA and all bodies, as long as they strive towards an inclusive society. So with that, again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for taking the space to work on your own physical body, your own emotional body. And peace be with you, Satnam. So I got wind. Oh, the question's done. So for the sake of posterity and recording, we got a question about the pressure point that I was talking about in your Pada Bandha. So I'm super bendy, so you can approach this pressure point without coming into the shape I'm about to come into. I'm just moving my body so you can see it on the camera. So if you look at the bottom of your foot, right? And then you just take your thumb, and there will be a pressure point here at the base of your heel, and that's where a tendon attaches, right? And then continue to press. And there's 2 or 3-ish in your Pada Bandha. Like here's it on mine, and you can tell it because you'll wince a little bit, right? And then continue to press. And this is where those 2 or 3 pressure points, sorry, I can't remember if it's 2 or 3, but it's where the ligaments attach to create literally what looks like a hammock in your foot. And you can use your thumb. Another way that like physical therapists will recommend this is grabbing a racquetball. Typically, yeah, a racquetball or something really firm. Tennis balls tend to give way. And then just standing on that tennis ball with and maybe leaning on the like the arch of a doorway or a door frame to support the upper body. And if you do the racquetball version, you will notice it, and it is really painful, but it's in a good way painful because it releases everything in the foot. So hopefully that helps.